From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Welcome, Gene.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting comics and graphic novels. This is really great to see.
Yeah. Now, what you guys may not know about Gene, not only is he an amazing graphic novelist and someone who blends just rich cultural stories with a sense of growing up as a true comics head and loving Marvel Comics, he's also a high school teacher. So he may be the coolest high school teacher in the country.
That's not what my students think, though.
That's until the grades come out. That is, yeah. But what I think what's amazing about you do is you know, I have written pieces about, I've encountered teachers who say, teach me. I have students, especially reluctant readers, and I don't know how to teach graphic novels, but when I give them graphic novels, a light goes on. It helps them. And they want to know. I talk to teachers across the country who are like, teach us, how do we teach graphic novels? And you live in both worlds. How would you answer that?
I think, as a teacher, I've used graphic novels in two different settings. One, I used it in an art class. I taught a computer art class for a while, and we actually had our students make graphic novels. I think that's a great way of entering into the medium. For that, I would recommend Scott McCloud's Understanding Comics, and I would also recommend Jessica Abel and Matt Madden's book, Drawing Words and Writing Pictures. Jessica and Matt are both cartoonists, and they're also university professors, and they basically took their course and they made a textbook out of it. It's amazing. It has like homework assignments and class activities and everything. If you feel uncomfortable teaching comics, that's a great place to start. The second place where I used comics was actually in a math class. So years ago, at my high school, one of our math teachers actually went on long-term leave, and I was asked to sub his class. But unfortunately, I was also the school's educational technologist, which was a fancy way of saying that I would help other teachers use computers in their classroom. What that meant for this math class, this Algebra 2 class, was every 2 weeks, I would miss 2 sessions, 2 to 3 sessions, because I was helping some other teacher on campus, right? That's terrible for these students. They had a sub of a sub. That's like the worst educational environment you can have. So to make up for it, I would actually videotape myself giving lectures, and I would ask my sub to play it. And this was terrible. I had students come up to me and go, Mr. Yang, we thought you were boring in person, but on video you were just unbearable, right? As a desperate second attempt, I drew my lessons out as comics, and I did it really quickly. You know, I spent maybe half an hour on each lesson. They turned out to be 4 to 6 pages long, and I'd Xerox them, and I'd ask my sub to pass these out. And these, much to my surprise, were actually a hit. Students would come up to me and go, Mr. Yang, we want you to do this even when you're here. We actually prefer you in cartoon form, you know? And when I talked to them about it, I realized that there were a couple of things that were working in the advantage of comics. Unlike, well, first they're visual, and my students were really into visual. But unlike other visual media, comics are what I call permanent, which means past, present, and future all sit on the same page right next to each other. And that means that the reader decides how fast the information enters his or her head. With my videotape lectures, the rate of information exchange was determined by me, by the lecturer. With a comic, comics are basically the only visual medium where the rate of information exchange is determined by the reader.
That is so true, and Scott McCloud gets that at that, you know, how it's different from film, it's different from TV, everything else. Now, you spoke last night to many authors and this National Book Festival event about changing diversity, and your new book is The Shadow Hero, and in that you write a new story, a new backstory about what we think is perhaps the first Asian American superhero ever in comics. Arguably, yes. Okay.
Nobody knows
but we're
for
not
sure.
arguing. We both agree with this. It's amazing. So, and you spoke last night though about the shifting in diversity both on the page and among creators. Are you seeing a lot of change in that now? And if you want to talk about The Shadow Hero as well and what role that plays for you.
Sure, absolutely. I think well, I'll just talk about comics in particular. I think American comics have grown in diversity in all senses of the word. You know, when I was growing up, if a girl walked into the comic book store, it was an event. But nowadays, it is not like that at all. You know, if you go to Comic-Con, it's pretty gender balanced. And in terms of genre, comics has really grown. And also in terms of culture. With The Shadow Hero, a couple of years ago, I came across this character called the Green Turtle, who was created by a Chinese-American artist who was working in the 1940s called Chu Hing. And the Green Turtle might be, depending on how you interpret the evidence on the page, he might be the first Asian American superhero. I was so intrigued by the character that I wanted to create an origin story for him. You know, Chu Hing never got around to doing that. So I teamed up with a friend of mine named Sunny Liu, and that's what our latest book is. The Shadow Hero is us giving an origin story to this obscure character from the 1940s.
And it's an amazing book. My review is on the Washington Post site, but you know, you've been a National Book Award finalist twice now. You're going to win one of these times. This may be it. But part of what, because you speak as an educator, what I've encountered is there's still a prejudice with graphic novels. I've encountered, you know, in schools, I speak in schools, and it's still like, yeah, but it's not really a book, you know. And you are able, though, you carry cred, educators' cred, respect, and you're able to speak to educators, and I think you are one of the key people who are helping transform how graphic novels are viewed with the depth of your work. Do you see this as a mission, as a passion project? Can you speak to it from a personal standpoint?
Well, I think we're out of time. But I'll say this. I think comics and education go really well together. In fact, my next project is going to be explicitly educational. I'm doing a comic called Secret Coders, with another cartoonist named Mike Holmes, and it'll be about programming. So it's a story about kids learning to program, and I'm hoping that the readers will learn how to program as well as they're reading it. But thank you so much.
Gene.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.